She found an AirTag in her purse and began to freak out. Her mind started racing about who could have slipped it in and why they were tracking her. In a panic, she called Alex, one of her closest friends. He arrived minutes later and assured her everything was fine, quickly taking the device off her hands. He Googled how to destroy it and learned a hammer was the best option. They both went out on the porch and he crushed the AirTag, which put her mind at ease, for now. He smashed the AirTag and she felt relieved for a moment, but the worry lingered. Someone had slipped it in her purse. Someone was watching. Alex offered for her to spend the night at his place, and she agreed. She didn't want to be alone. His apartment felt unfamiliar, but safer than her own. He tossed her a blanket for the couch and disappeared into his room. She couldn't sleep. Every creak and noise made her skin crawl. She got up to use the bathroom, but as she walked down the hall, she noticed a room with a glowing red light bleeding from under the door. She pushed it open and her stomach dropped. It was her, an entire wall of photos. She found a strand of her hair taped to a mirror. A mannequin was wearing a dress that she had lost months ago. There was a wig for every hair color she had worn over the past few years. She gasped as she noticed the neatly organized AirTags. The one labeled purse was missing. She stumbled backwards in disbelief, but as she turned to leave the room,
I never lose track of what is mine.
She woke up in a chair, the ties cutting into her wrists. Her head throbbed as she looked around and remembered where she was. The door creaked open. Alex stepped in, holding a glass. He looked unconcerned, like everything was fine. He carefully tipped the water into her mouth, watching her closely. His expression shifted to something darker, more troubled. As he left, she knew she had to escape or something bad would happen. She tugged and twisted at the ties, desperate to loosen them before he returned. Meanwhile, Alex was fixating on a sharp knife resting on the countertop. His hands hovered over it, a conflicted look on his face. Finally, he picked it up with a heavy sigh, gripping it tightly. Alex returned slowly, knife shaking in his grip, tears welling in his eyes. As he placed a hand on her shoulder, something felt wrong. It was the mannequin. Suddenly, she smashed the mirror over his head. She raced toward her car, fingers trembling as she struggled to dial 911. As she drove away, he stood in the doorway with an unsettling smile on his face. She sped away, finally escaping Alex, which put her mind at ease for now. He watched the masked man grabbing and dragging his own lifeless body across the floor. You see, he had acquired this special security camera that let him see into the future. Curious, he set it up, eager to test its abilities. But as soon as he turned on the live view, his stomach dropped. He slammed the laptop shut. His hands were shaking. That was him, dead. He took a deep breath and forced himself to watch it again. Over and over. Every time, the masked man grabbed and pulled his dead body across the floor. He scoured the internet, searching for the mask. Nothing matched. He double-checked his locks and installed more. For days, he barely slept. Every sound sent a jolt through his chest. Then, one night, a sharp crack echoed through the house. He froze. It was footsteps. He grabbed the knife and crept downstairs. In the dim light, he saw him, the masked man, holding a knife, stepping into the living room. He lunged. The struggle was quick and violent. The knife drove deep again and again until the body collapsed. He gasped for air, hands trembling. Slowly, he reached down and peeled away the mask. His own face stared back at him. His stomach turned, his vision blurred. A knock at the door. Panic surged through him. He grabbed the mask, pulling it over his own face, and without thinking, he grabbed the body and began to drag it out of the room. As he tucked his daughter in, she looked scared and asked him to check the closet. The father smiled and walked over, but as he pulled the closet door open, his face went numb. It was his daughter. She was crying, trembling. He completely froze in horror before snapping his head back to the bed. It was empty. He was panicked for a moment, but he shook it off. It must have just been his imagination. He calmed his daughter, tucked her in for real this time, and left the room. The dark room settled for a moment, but then the closet door slowly creaked open. They set up a baby monitor to keep an eye on their daughter because recently they had noticed open drawers and crooked window blinds, things that made them uneasy. The camera was a way to make sure nothing odd was happening. Hours later, in the middle of the night, the monitor crackled awake, instantly jolting her from sleep. She glanced at the screen and saw her husband standing over the crib, cradling their baby. She felt relieved until she realized her husband was lying right next to her. Panic surged as she grabbed a baseball bat and bolted into the nursery. She turned on the light and her husband spun around, startled, clutching their baby. If this was her husband, then who was in her bed? As they pulled up to the haunted lighthouse, his friend told him that anyone who went up never came back down. No bodies, no answers, just gone forever. He warned his friend not to go, but curiosity got the better of him. He told him he would call from the top to prove he was okay. Phone in hand, he stepped through the door and disappeared up the stairs. The climb was long, but at the top there was nothing really. Just a quiet room and an ocean view, not scary at all. He pulled out his phone, but there was no service. And that's when he noticed it, a small room off to the side. In it was an old rotary phone, still connected. He picked it up and called his friend, and let him know he was speaking from an old phone he found in this cool room. The friend froze. There was no phone or room in this lighthouse. He He circled the base, looked up, and saw him standing on an old rotting plank, holding his cell phone. A gust of wind came hard off the sea. The call cut out, and only the lighthouse remained. He opened the package and pulled out a sleek-looking headset with no branding, only a QR code. He scanned it, downloaded the game, and hit launch. He hesitated for a moment, but decided to put on the headset. Immediate bright flashes filled his vision, a loud, deafening tone, then everything went black. He woke up on his floor, dying of thirst and hopelessly confused. His phone buzzed and he picked it up. 55 missed calls, hundreds of texts. He looked at the date. 2 days had gone by. He scrolled through the messages. Please turn yourself in. How could you? Why? His mom's message read, I still love you, but you have to go to the cops. One message included a video link. He clicked it. It was him, lighting a house on fire. He was committing multiple terrible crimes. But when he turned to get the headset, it was gone, along with his computer. Sirens approached. Red and blue flooded his room, heart beating out of his chest. His eyes caught the back door, and he decided to run. The gravedigger decided to open the casket, just to take a quick peek inside. He was almost done digging the grave, and sometimes liked to see the face of the person he was about to bury. But what he saw made him fall back in shock. It was his face staring up from inside. Heart racing, he sprinted home to his wife, leaving the grave half dug. But when he got there, his wife looked at him with horror. She backed away, trembling, reaching for a knife behind her. He stepped forward and she screamed. He ran. He didn't know where else to go, so he returned to the graveyard. But now there were figures standing around the open casket. He crept closer. Their skin was gray, their heads swollen, and eyes were black and wide. One of them turned. It placed a hand on his shoulder. You finished the mission, Zarthan. Great job as always. He couldn't move or speak, just frozen in confusion. The figure sighed. You poor thing. You've been down here too long. She reached up and touched his cheek, slowly peeling, revealing the truth. His skin came away like fabric, and beneath it, he's one of them. He got into his time machine and set the dial for ancient Rome. It landed with a loud crack. As it opened, he stepped out. And as the dust cleared, he realized he was right in the middle of a Roman army. A soldier grabbed his arm, but he managed to pull out of his grasp, leaving behind his watch. He ran back as a spear whizzed past his head. He punched his return coordinates. The machine landed in silence. As it opened, he saw nothing but gray skies and dead trees. Behind him was a city in ruins. A massive statue was half buried in the ash. It was an emperor, with one arm reaching out of the ground, and on the wrist was a watch. His watch. In the street ahead, he saw a crushed warhead casing, with his watch etched into its side. You see, the soldier had kept it that day. Roman engineers took it apart. They studied its gears, its strange metals, its hidden power. They cracked the battery. They discovered energy, built machines, and forged weapons far beyond their time. They advanced too far, too fast. He ran to the machine to go retrieve the watch, but the spear had torn a massive hole, meaning he was stuck in a timeline that never should have existed, all because of his watch. There was a staircase in the middle of the village that led straight into the sky, with no end in sight. Twice a year, they held Ascension Day, where they chose a name out of a barrel. It was a great honor to be chosen. The villagers would beam with pride. His sister fixed his hair and gave him a tearful hug. She would see him again when she was chosen. The elder pressed on his chest and studied him for a moment. Then he stepped aside without a word. He climbed as the villagers cheered. But as she watched the cloud swallow him, something felt terribly wrong. Later that night, she snuck through the village and got to the base of the stairs. Climbing them without being chosen meant your name could never be called. If she did this, she might never see her brother again. But she couldn't shake the unease, so she started climbing. As the village disappeared below, the air got thinner and it was cold. She found a door. It opened with a groan. Inside was a long table with two strange figures at either end. One of the figures reached out and lifted the lid from the largest tray. She froze in disbelief. It was her brother, tied like a roast, an apple jammed in his mouth. His eyes were blinking. He was still alive. She turned to go get help, but the wind slammed the door shut.